Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. And wow, before we even start today, I just have to say a massive, massive thank you. Seriously, your support has been absolutely incredible. Our last special deep dive, the one on the Atlantis Enigma, well, you absolutely blew us away. Because of you, because of all your listening and sharing, we smashed through the 100 subscriptions mark. Can you believe it? That's over 100 amazing and curious minds joining us on this journey. And honestly, it's all down to you. We couldn't do this without you. It just proves that nothing's going to stop us from making this channel bigger and better. So thank you, truly. And as a huge thank you for getting us here, we're kicking off something brand new today. It's a new series we're calling Civilization Reset. Get ready, because this is going to be incredibly dark, but also intensely interesting. We're going to be digging into mysteries that really challenge conventional history. And the first deep dive in this brand new series, today, it's Younger Dryas, First Reset of Civilization.
Oh, look, before we jump into this huge topic, just a quick reminder, your support. It's literally our fuel.
Hitting 100 subs was amazing, but we're still aiming for that next milestone, 200. And we can only get there with your help. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, click the like, drop a comment, share with a friend. Every little bit helps us keep bringing you these deep dives. Okay, let's do this. Let's unpack a period in Earth's history so unbelievably catastrophic, it might have totally rewritten the story of human civilization. This isn't just about geology, you know. It's about lost worlds, maybe forgotten knowledge, and what happens when the planet itself hits reset. So to kick things off, let's set the stage. This Younger Dryas period, it sounds almost mythical, doesn't it? Our sources even call it legendary.
It really does have that aura about it, doesn't it? And for good reason. It was a truly pivotal epoch. If we put a time frame on it, we're looking at it starting around 12,800 years ago, roughly. And it ended about 12,000 years ago. And the key thing here is, this wasn't some slow drift into colder weather. It was geologically sudden. A sharp return to near Ice Age conditions right after things had started warming up.
So just when you think you're out of the Ice Age, bam, you're pulled back in.
Exactly. Before the planet eventually settled into the warmer Holocene period, the one we're mostly in now, scientists have used ice cores, lake sediments, all sorts of things to nail down these dates pretty precisely.
Okay, so what makes the start of this period so important for our reset idea? You mentioned a specific marker.
Right, the Younger Dryas boundary, the YDB layer. And this isn't just theoretical, it's something tangible. It's this distinct black sedimentary layer, like a thin, dark line you can actually see in soil profiles, in geological digs.
A scar in the earth.
You could definitely call it that. And what's really wild is how widespread it is. We found this layer across roughly 30% of the Earth's land surface. 30%.
Wow. So North America, Europe?
Yep, North America, Europe, even places like Syria. It's genuinely global, which tells you whatever caused it was, well, massive. Not just some local flood or volcano.
Okay, so it's a global layer. What's in it that points towards something dramatic?
That's the crucial part. It's like a fingerprint. When you analyze this black layer, you find stuff that screams cosmic impact. Things like tiny bits of molten glass formed under intense heat and pressure, nanodiamonds, microscopic diamonds that only form under extreme shock conditions.
Diamonds, seriously?
Seriously. Plus, you get elevated levels of rare elements like iridium and platinum. These are much more common in asteroids than in the Earth's crust. And maybe the smoking gun? Extraterrestrial helium. A specific isotope, helium-3, that's rare on Earth but abundant in space.
Okay, that sounds pretty definitive.
It really points towards something hitting us from outside. And what's fascinating, as you hinted earlier, is the similarity to another famous boundary layer, the KT boundary, the one that marks the asteroid impact that, wiped out the dinosaurs 66 million years ago.
Right, that one also has iridium spikes, doesn't it?
Exactly. It's another distinct layer also with cosmic impact markers. So the big question becomes, what catastrophic event, similar in nature, happened around 12,800 years ago to leave this Younger Dryas boundary layer?
Which brings us to the impact itself. If the evidence points to a hit, where did it happen? Finding a crater that old, especially potentially under ice. That sounds tough.
Incredibly tough.
Yeah.
But the leading theory, based on some amazing remote sensing work, points to Greenland. Specifically, an enormous impact structure found hidden beneath the Hiawatha Glacier.
Hidden under the ice, how do they even find it?
Through airborne radar. Basically, flying planes over the glacier, sending radar pulses down through kilometers of ice to map the bedrock underneath. And what they found was this huge circular depression. It has all the hallmarks of an impact crater, a raised rim, a central peak, disturbed rock beneath. It's pretty compelling.
Wow, okay, so Under all that ice in Greenland, what kind of object are we talking about? What hit us?
The theory points to a large iron meteorite. Not just a rock, but a dense, iron-heavy asteroid. And the size estimates are just staggering, somewhere between, say, 4.5 and 9 kilometers wide.
9 kilometers? That's huge, like a mountain falling from the sky.
Pretty much. And the estimated weight is around 11 to 12 billion tons. Just try to picture that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't drifting in gently. It hit at an estimated speed of 19.2 kilometers per second.
Per second. What's that in, like, normal speed?
That works out to about 64,800 kilometers per hour, faster than anything humans have ever launched, just pure kinetic energy.
Okay, my brain is slightly melting trying to grasp this. What kind of force are we talking about upon impact?
The estimates hover around 700 megatons of energy released, which, again, is a number so big it's hard to comprehend.
Let's try. How does that compare to things we know? Like, say, nuclear bombs.
Okay, so the Tsar Bomba, the biggest hydrogen bomb ever detonated by humans. This Greenland impact was maybe 12 to 13 times more powerful than that.
13 times our bomba, which itself was ridiculously powerful.
Right. That bomb vaporized islands and was felt thousands of kilometers away. Now multiply that. Or think about the Tunguska event in 1908, that airburst over Siberia that flattened forests for over 2,000 square kilometers. Traces are still visible today. This impact was maybe 70 times stronger than Tunguska.
70 times.
And compared to the Hiroshima bomb, the one that leveled the city instantly, this Greenland impact was something like 47 million times stronger.
47?
Million, yeah. Even that Chelyabinsk meteor in 2013, the one that injured 1,500 people in Russia. Our sources basically say that was nothing compared to this.
So a mountain-sized iron asteroid hits Greenland, which was covered in ice back then, right?
Exactly. It slammed into a massive continental-sized ice sheet. Estimates suggest that ice sheet was anywhere from 1.5 to 3 kilometers thick in places.
Hitting kilometers of ice, the immediate result must have been just water everywhere.
Unimaginable amounts of water. The calculations suggest the impact could have instantly melted or vaporized something like 25 million cubic kilometers of ice.
Okay, need another comparison. How much water is that?
It's over 1,000 times the entire volume of the Baltic Sea.
1,000 Baltic Seas worth of water. Released how quickly?
Very quickly. Think massive steam explosions, pulverized ice and rock thrown into the atmosphere, and just an incredible volume of meltwater pouring into the oceans. The research points to a sudden and rapid increase in global sea levels, right around that 12,800 year mark.
How rapid are we talking? Days?
Yeah.
Years?
The estimates vary, and researchers are cautious, but some suggest water levels could have jumped by as much as 9 meters. That's like 30 feet within just 24 hours.
9 meters in a day?
And potentially exceeding 15 meters, maybe 50 feet, within a year. Think about any human settlements back then. Where would they likely be?
Along the coasts, right. For fishing, trade, river access.
Exactly. A sudden rise like that would be utterly devastating. Entire coastlines, entire communities just wiped off the map, gone beneath the waves almost overnight. Survivors forced inland, everything lost.
That sounds a lot like the flood myths we hear about from all over the world.
It provides a very compelling physical basis for them, doesn't it? Our sources mention over 500 flood myths, potop stories, as they're called in some cultures, found on virtually every continent except Antarctica.
Noah's Ark is the famous one, but there are others.
Oh yes, the Epic of Gilgamesh from Mesopotamia, various Native American traditions and stories from Asia, South America. They're everywhere. The idea is these aren't just random tales. They could be allegorical stories, collective memories passed down through generations, preserving the trauma of these catastrophic, maybe localized but widespread flood events triggered by this massive meltwater pulse.
And you could even connect this to Atlantis.
If you're looking for a mechanism for a powerful, advanced civilization, perhaps coastal, suddenly sinking beneath the waves, well, a rapid 15-meter sea level rise caused by a caustic impact certainly fits the description, doesn't it? Plus, this huge release of fresh water could also explain certain anomalies scientists see in ice cores from around the world, sudden changes in water composition.
Okay, so devastating floods are one immediate consequence, but that impact energy, 700 megatons. It didn't just melt ice, did it? What about fire?
You're absolutely right. The energy release was immense. And research, like a study from the Journal of Geology in 2013, points to another global catastrophe right at the same time: massive wildfires. The evidence, mainly from widespread soot and charcoal layers found within that same YDB boundary layer, suggests that at least 10% of the Earth's total land surface was burning.
10% of all land, that's almost unimaginable. How does that compare to, say, the dinosaur extinction fires?
The studies suggest these younger Dryas fires were actually more expensive than the ones linked to the dinosaur extinction. The amount of carbon fit found in the geological record for this period is just off the charts.
So how would the impact trigger fires on that scale?
Several ways, potentially. The initial impact itself would generate immense heat. Then imagine fragments of the asteroid or superheated ejecta from the impact site raining back down through the atmosphere all over the globe.
Like fiery meteors igniting everything they touch.
Exactly. Friction heats them intensely as they re-enter, acting like matches thrown onto dry landscapes. Plus, the atmospheric shock waves, maybe even changes in atmospheric chemistry. Scientists theorize these widespread, incredibly destructive infernos are directly linked to the impact. They called them magical burning events in some sources, likely referring to how sudden and widespread they seemed.
Okay, so we have biblical floods, planet-scorching fires. What did this combination do to life on Earth, particularly the large animals?
It was an extinction event, a major one. Right around that same 12,000 to 13,000 year time frame, we see a mass extinction wiping out approximately 75% of all large mammal species, the megafauna across the globe.
75% gone.
Gone. Or very nearly gone. We're talking about iconic creatures.
Like the woolly mammoths.
Absolutely. The big hairy elephants with the tusks, staples of the Ice Age landscape, gone. Saber-toothed cats, like Diego from Ice Age, gone.
No more Diego.
Afraid not. And things people might not even know existed then. Ancient camels, camelops that actually originated in North America, gone. Giant ground sloths, some of these were enormous, way bigger than modern sloths, standing tall as elephants, gone. Short-faced bears, which were maybe twice the size of a modern grizzly bear. Terrifying apex predators, gone.
Even lions and cheetahs in America.
Yep, American lions and American cheetahs roam the plains. They vanished too.
And the key is that they all disappeared around the same time.
That's the critical link. They all vanished from the fossil record within a very similar narrow window, right around 12,800 years ago, aligning perfectly with the YDB layer, the proposed impact date, the floods, the fires.
It paints a picture of total ecosystem collapse.
It really does.
Yeah.
And think about the human cultures that relied on these animals, like the Clovis people in North America, who were expert megafauna hunters. Their entire way of life would have been shattered almost overnight when their primary food sources just disappeared.
A truly devastating picture. And incredibly, the catastrophe wasn't even over then, was it? After the immediate chaos, there was a long-term climate shift.
That's right. As if the impact, floods, and fires weren't enough. Following all that immediate destruction, the planet plunged into a period of intense cold, a huge cooling, as our sources put it. This wasn't just a bad winter, it was a climatic reversal known as the Younger Dryas stadial, and it lasted for another 1,200 years.
1,200 years of cold, after all that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Global temperatures dropped sharply, essentially throwing humanity back into near glacial conditions. It would have felt like an apocalypse.
What caused the cooling? Was it related to the impact?
The leading theory connects it directly to that massive meltwater pulse from Greenland we talked about. All that cold, fresh water pouring into the North Atlantic is thought to have disrupted or even shut down the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, the AMOC.
That's the ocean current system, like the Gulf Stream, that carries heat north.
Exactly. It acts like a global heat pump, shut it down or weaken it significantly, and the Northern Hemisphere in particular gets drastically colder. Plus, all the dust and aerosols thrown into the atmosphere by the impact and the fires would have blocked sunlight, contributing to a global cooling effect and impact winter.
So for any humans who survived the initial cataclysms, life just got incredibly harder for over a millennium.
Extremely hard. Constant cold, drastically altered landscapes, different vegetation, animal populations that survived would have shifted ranges, it would have forced migrations, made finding food incredibly difficult, and put immense pressure on any surviving groups. Survival itself would have been the only goal.
Which brings us back to those humans. You mentioned the Clovis culture in North America earlier. Let's talk about them specifically. Who were they and what happened to them?
The Clovis people represent a really fascinating and ultimate tragic piece of this puzzle. They were a prehistoric Native American culture, known primarily for their very distinctive tools, these beautifully made, fluted spear points, and they were incredibly successful for a time. Their artifacts are found across almost all of North America, suggesting they were widespread, adaptable hunter-gatherers, likely specializing in hunting the megafauna that were abundant before the catastrophe.
Okay, so a successful, widespread culture. What's their connection to the Younger Dryas?
Their connection is their disappearance. Just like the mammoths and saber-toothed cats, the Clovis culture vanishes from the archaeological record right around 12,800 years ago.
Vanishes, like completely.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Their distinctive tools stop appearing. The archaeological layers dating after the YDB event just don't show evidence of Clovis technology anymore. It's a sharp cutoff.
And the theory is the younger Dryas event is responsible.
That's the growing consensus among many scientists now, yes. The timing is just too perfect to ignore. Think about the cumulative impact. Their main food sources, megafauna, go extinct. Their environment is ravaged by wildfires, coastlines are flooded, changing landscapes, and then they're plunged into a 1,200-year-long cold snap.
It's hard to see how any culture, no matter how resilient, could withstand all of that simultaneously.
Exactly. While other theories exist, maybe disease, resource depletion, the sheer scale and precise timing of the Younger Dryas cataclysm provides a powerful, direct explanation for why this thriving culture disappeared so suddenly. They might be the first clear example we have of a significant human society basically being wiped out, or at least fundamentally disrupted and transformed, by this cosmic event and its consequences.
So putting all these pieces together, the impact evidence, the global floods, the massive fires, the mass extinctions, the abrupt cooling, the disappearance of the Clovis people, this leads to the idea of a great reset, doesn't it? What does that really mean for our understanding of human history?
It means we might need to fundamentally rethink the story we tell ourselves about human progress. The Younger Dryas impact event, with all its cascading consequences, is theorized to have caused exactly that, a great reset for the planet, and especially for any human civilizations that might have existed at the time.
Resetting them how?
Pushing them back, potentially drastically. Imagine if there were societies that were more advanced than simple hunter-gatherers. Maybe early agriculturalists. Maybe societies with complex structures or knowledge systems we haven't found evidence for yet. A cataclysm of this scale could have shattered those societies, destroyed their infrastructure, wiped out populations, and forced survivors back into a much more primitive state, essentially a Stone Age level focused purely on day-to-day survival.
So it implies human history might not be a straight line upwards.
Precisely. Instead of a steady climb from primitive to modern, maybe it's more like peaks and valleys. Maybe civilizations rise, develop complex knowledge, and then get knocked back down by catastrophic events like this, forcing humanity to essentially rediscover things later on. This Great Reset idea offers a potential explanation for why we seem to have so little evidence of complex societies before about 10,000 or 11,000 years ago. The Younger Dryas event could have simply wiped the slate clean.
Destroying not just buildings, but knowledge, history.
Exactly. It could have wiped out many ancient histories and histories, as our sources put it. Physical records, oral traditions, technological know-how, all potentially lost in the chaos and the subsequent struggle for survival during the long cold period.
Which leads to the incredibly tantalizing question, if so much was potentially lost, did anything survive? Are there clues hinting at what might have come before this reset?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it brings us to some truly enigmatic archaeological sites that just don't seem to fit the conventional timeline. Sites that hint at sophisticated knowledge surviving through or emerging immediately after the Younger Dryas chaos.
And the prime example has to be Göbekli Tepe, right?
Absolutely. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey is just stunningly anomalous. Radiocarbon dating places its construction starting around 11,600 years ago, maybe even earlier, putting it right in the aftermath of the Younger Dryas impact, or even spanning the period.
And it's not just old, it's huge and complex.
Immensely so. Our sources mentioned it's estimated to be 50 times larger than Stonehenge. It consists of multiple circular enclosures built with massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some weighing up to 60 tons.
60 tons? How were people moving those back then?
That's one of the huge mysteries. And these pillars are intricately carved with reliefs of animals, snakes, foxes, boars, vultures, and abstract symbols. It demonstrates incredible organization, artistry, and engineering skill at a time we usually associate with small bands of hunter-gatherers.
And most of it is still buried.
That's another fascinating aspect. Something like 90% of the site is still underground. It seems the builders deliberately buried it, backfilled the structures thousands of years ago. Why they did that is another profound question. Some sources even hint that maybe certain groups wanted to remain largely unexplored.
Wow. Okay, but beyond the scale and age, what specifically hints at knowledge from a possibly lost, pre-reset civilization?
One of the most compelling arguments revolves around its astronomical alignment. The site, or at least key parts of it, appears to be oriented towards true north.
Why is that significant?
Because 12,000 years ago, Polaris, our current North Star, wasn't anywhere near the celestial North Pole. Earth's axis wobbles over long periods. It's called precession. So, to align something accurately to true north back then, You needed sophisticated astronomical knowledge. You needed to understand this long-term wobble and likely use another star, perhaps Vega, which was much closer to the pole at that time, as your guide.
That implies a level of long-term observation and understanding we just don't expect from that period.
Exactly. It suggests a continuity of knowledge, perhaps passed down from an earlier time, or a very rapid development of complex understanding right after the cataclysm. It doesn't fit the simple hunter-gatherer model easily.
And there are interpretations of the carvings, too.
Yes, some researchers look at specific carvings, like those on Pillar 43, sometimes called the Vulture Stone or Sempa Pillar, and see potential symbolism related to the Younger Dryas event. They interpret certain symbols like a headless man, various animals, and shapes that might represent celestial objects or constellations as potentially depicting the cosmic impact and its devastating consequences. Maybe even a date encoded using profession.
So, Göbekli Tepe as a kind of time capsule, or a record.
That's one interpretation. A time capsule, maybe a mine of information, perhaps a place built by survivors to preserve knowledge or commemorate the cataclysm, maybe even kickstart the rebuilding process. Whatever its exact purpose, Göbekli Tepe strongly suggests that a more complex society with advanced knowledge existed around the time of the Younger Dryas, challenging the idea of a simple linear progression of human history.
It's absolutely mind-bending. And if Göbekli Tepe is one major anomaly, the Great Pyramids of Giza are another huge one, maybe even more famous. Let's unpack this. You're suggesting the pyramids might be linked to this pre-reset idea, too.
It's a theory that challenges the conventional narrative, definitely. The standard story, of course, is that they were tombs built for pharaohs around 4,500 years ago.
But there are issues with that story.
There are anomalies, yes, big ones. First off, as our sources point out, the bodies of the pharaohs, supposedly buried in the largest pyramids, like Khufu's Great Pyramid, have never actually been found inside them.
Well, weren't they just looted?
That's the usual explanation, but it's curious. Other pharaohs' tombs, like Tutankhamun's, even when partially looted, still contain the mummy and vast amounts of grave goods. The complete absence in the Great Pyramid chambers is, well, noteworthy. And then there's the inside of the pyramids themselves. They are remarkably bare.
Bare? How so?
There are virtually no hieroglyphs, no inscriptions, no decorations inside the main chambers and passages of the Great Pyramid. This is really unusual, even strange compared to other Egyptian tombs, which are typically covered in texts and images detailing the pharaoh's life, religious beliefs, journey to the afterlife.
So these massive, incredibly engineered structures are just empty and blank inside.
Largely, yes. It feels incongruous if their primary purpose was to be elaborate, personalized burial monuments in the typical Egyptian style.
Okay, so if not tombs, then what? And built by whom?
This is where the alternative theories come in, connecting potentially to that older, lost civilization idea. One controversial theory suggests they weren't tombs at all, but maybe functioned as some kind of ancient power plants, or were part of a technology we no longer understand.
Power plants. How would that even work?
Proponents point to things like the specific types of stone used, granite, limestone, the internal layout, the shafts, the chambers, and speculate about acoustic resonance, piezoelectric effects in the quartz-rich granite, or harnessing telluric earth currents. It's fringe, but it highlights the search for alternative explanations.
Okay, what about the builders?
A more grounded, but still radical theory proposes that the pyramids, or at least the core structures of the largest ones, were built by a different and older civilization, one that existed thousands of years before the dynastic Egyptians we know. A civilization perhaps erased from history by a cataclysm, like the Younger Dryas impact.
So the Egyptians might have found these structures and repurposed them.
Or inherited the knowledge, or built around them. The core argument here is linked to durability. Structures made of massive stone blocks, engineered with incredible precision, are among the very few things humans could build that might actually survive for over 10,000 or 12,000 years. They could be relics from that lost epoch.
And the construction itself poses problems for the conventional timeline, doesn't it?
Huge problems. Modern attempts to replicate the cutting, moving, and precise placement of those enormous blocks, some weighing dozens of tons, using only the simple copper tools, ropes, and ramps typically attributed to Bronze Age Egyptians, have proven incredibly difficult, if not impossible, especially at the scale and precision observed.
They used copper tools back then, right? Can copper really cut granite effectively?
That's a major sticking point. Granite is very hard, Mohs hardness 6-7, while copper is relatively soft, Mohs 3. Cutting millions of massive granite blocks with extreme precision fitting them together so tightly you can't slip a blade between them. Doing that with simple copper saws and chisels, even using sand as an abrasive, seems extraordinarily challenging and inefficient.
Experiments have been done.
Yes, and while you can cut granite slowly with copper tools and abrasives, achieving the speed, scale, and precision seen in the pyramids is extremely difficult and time-consuming, often resulting in only relatively smooth surfaces, not the perfect fits we see. The small bronze saws found just don't seem up to the task for millions of multi-ton blocks.
So the implication is they must have had better tools or techniques.
Or knowledge we don't currently possess or understand. This persistent challenge in replicating the construction leads many to conclude that there must have been advanced knowledge that we probably do not yet fully understand. It fuels the idea that maybe reality may be that another human epoch once existed on Earth that was capable of amazing things, and the pyramids are their legacy.
It's a compelling thought. And pyramids aren't just in Egypt, are they? This phenomenon is global. What does that suggest?
The fact that we see pyramid-like structures built by different cultures across the globe in Mesoamerica, Sudan, China, maybe elsewhere, is certainly curious. What does it mean? Well, one idea is simply that a pyramid is a stable, logical shape for building tall, monumental structures. Maybe it's just the first natural step any developing civilization takes when it wants to build big, convergent evolution, architecturally speaking.
Or could there be a shared reason?
Possibly. Maybe all these cultures independently looked to the sky, observed something important, astronomical cycles, perhaps even witnessing celestial events, and were inspired to build structures reflecting that. Or, more speculatively, maybe there were contacts between different ancient civilizations, an exchange of ideas, a shared architectural blueprint passed down, or across cultures, originating from a common, older source.
A source that was perhaps wiped out.
That connects back to the reset idea.
Yeah.
And also to something called the Silurian hypothesis.
What now?
The Silurian hypothesis. It's basically a thought experiment asking, if an advanced industrial civilization existed on Earth millions of years ago, or even just tens of thousands, what evidence would remain today? The conclusion is often, not much. Erosion, subduction, glaciation, climate change. These processes erase most structures over geological time. Even something massive like the Hoover Dam might only last 10,000 years or so before it's unrecognizable rubble. Cities turn to dust.
So finding evidence of a civilization from, say, 13,000 years ago would be incredibly hard anyway.
Exactly. And if that civilization was hit by a cataclysm like the Younger Dryas impact around 12,800 years ago, well, any evidence could have been destroyed, and traces of this ancient civilization could have disappeared from the face of the Earth. What might survive? Only the most massive, durable, geologically stable structures, like pyramids built from solid stone. They could literally be the last traces left.
Echoes of a lost world. It keeps coming back to that. And it links back to Plato's Atlantis story again, doesn't it?
It resonates strongly. A powerful, perhaps global civilization, advanced knowledge, catastrophic destruction, sinking beneath the waves, or being wiped from memory. The parallels are hard to ignore when you consider the Younger Dryas event.
Okay, let's try to pull all these threads together. We have the impact evidence, the global consequences, the potential human cost, and these mysterious ancient sites. How does it all connect into a unified theory? So what does this all mean when we put it all together?
It means that instead of looking at these as separate, isolated mysteries, a weird climate blip here, an extinction event there, some odd ruins over there, we can see them potentially converging into a single coherent narrative driven by one catastrophic event. You start with the Younger Dryas boundary layer, dated precisely, packed with cosmic impact markers. That's point one. Point two, the discovery of the likely impact site, a massive Hiawatha crater in Greenland, consistent in size and timing. Point three, the simultaneous devastating consequences, the mass extinction of megafauna, the planet-wide wildfires, the rapid dramatic sea level rise reflected in global flood myths.
All happening around that 12,800 year mark.
Exactly. Then point four, the ensuing 1,200-year plunge into deep cold, creating apocalyptic survival conditions. Point five, the mysterious disappearance of a known, widespread human culture, the Clovis people, right at that critical juncture. And finally, point six, the existence of inexplicable archaeological anomalies like Göbekli Tepe and potentially the core structures of the Great Pyramids, hinting at sophisticated knowledge and capabilities that seem out of place for their conventional time frame, but make sense if they are remnants or legacies of a pre-cataclysm civilization.
So the Great Reset theory acts as the glue holding all these disparate pieces of evidence together.
Precisely. It offers a plausible, unified explanation. The Younger Dryas impact didn't just change the climate, it potentially reset the trajectory of human civilization, destroying ecosystems, erasing societies, and wiping out vast amounts of accumulated history and knowledge, leaving only fragmented clues and enigmatic structures behind.
It really makes you wonder, if this reset happened, how much more evidence is still out there buried or unrecognized? How much of our own past are we completely unaware of?
That's the profound question it leaves us with, isn't it? How much more might there be that we haven't even found yet? What other clues are waiting to be uncovered that could further rewrite our understanding of human history?
What a trip. Seriously. Thinking about a potential reset like the Younger Dryas, it just changes how you look at everything, doesn't it? What hidden histories might still lie buried, waiting for us to truly grasp the implications of that ancient catastrophe? It's something to really mull over. And on that thought, I want to say thank you again so much for joining us on this deep dive. And thank you especially for being such a vital part of the channel's growth. We absolutely couldn't do it without your curiosity and your support. So, one last reminder. If you found this exploration into the Younger Dryas reset as compelling as we did, please do hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Give us a thumbs up, leave a comment below. We love hearing your thoughts and questions, and please share this deep dive with anyone else you think might find it fascinating. Your support really does keep us going and allows us to tackle more of these big, amazing topics. Until next time, always be curious, ask and look for answers. They are always somewhere there.